Welcome to Wild Spirits Outdoors, the place for real hunting talk, tactics, and a few laughs. Now let's dive in with your host, Brad Dijon.
Hey guys and gals, welcome back to Wild Spirits Outdoors. Thank you for joining me for this episode 26 of the Wild Spirits Outdoors podcast. We're going to take a little detour, if you will, today. We're gonna hit some back roads. We're gonna do something a little bit different from the normal theme of talking woods and whitetails and hunting tactics and hunting regulations. Today's episode, I am joined by a very special guest. This gentleman's name is Ron Rademacher, and I will let Ron tell his story when we get into the recording, but I just wanted to jump on really quickly and let everybody know that this is going to be a great storytelling type podcast. And if you live in the state of Michigan, I believe there's going to be plenty of things talked about in here and plenty of places talked about in here that you may not have ever even known existed. So that's why I'm very excited about this one. I got to meet Ron, as you'll learn as we get into the episode, at the Kalamazoo Outdoor Expo, and he was gracious enough when I extended an invite for him to come in and tell his story and a little bit about the books that he has written. He was gracious enough to do so. So Ron just left. We had a fantastic conversation, and I hope to do that again. Just an awesome conversation, and I could sit for a long time and listen to some of the stories and the things that he has got to witness firsthand here in the state of Michigan, and he has put pen to paper and actually written these stories so that people can know these places and take the opportunities to go see them. Something Ron and I talked about in the episode is, there's plenty of famous places, if you will, in the state of Michigan, whether it be Traverse City or Grand Rapids or Detroit, Marquette, you name it. There's all these destination cities. But what gets lost in a lot of that conversation is some of these funky little towns and the history behind them and some of the sights and views and natural wonders within the state of Michigan that you might not find on a map or on a signpost on the side of the road. And Ron has spent 30 years finding these places and writing about them. So it was a great conversation. This is going to be a short intro. I just wanted to let everybody know, if you're expecting to talk whitetails, today's not the day. We're gonna take a little detour. So we're gonna jump on a back road and we're gonna take a cruise. I hope you guys enjoy. This is Wild Spirits Outdoors. Take care. Hey guys and gals, welcome to Wild Spirits Outdoors. If you're listening on the day of the drop, today is Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. I'm excited for today's episode. I would like to introduce everybody to Michigan author Ron Rademacher. Ron, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you coming in.
Great to be here, man. Great to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to let Ron tell a little bit about himself, but before I do that, I actually met Ron at the Kalamazoo Outdoor Expo here a few weeks back, and I had no intentions of going in there and finding somebody to come do an episode with me, but I heard Ron's voice as I was walking down the aisles, and I got to be honest, guys, something just drew me in, so I kind of started eavesdropping on the conversation he was having with somebody, and he was talking about one of his books, and then I started looking at his display, and I was like, this guy sounds like he's a very interesting gentleman, and he's probably got some great stories to tell, and I'm a story kind of guy, and I love listening to him. So I guess before we start getting into some of the books and some of your travels, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you grew up. Are you a Michigan native? A little bit of your backstory.
Well, it's pretty much the same as everybody else. Is just a normal Michigan life. I grew up in DeWitt, Michigan, which is north of Lansing, way out in the country. Grew up on a farm, and in those days, we that was a long time ago. Back when the glaciers were receding, and we couldn't wait to get out of there. Sure. In those days. Today, kids hang around, but we wanted to get out of there. So I left at 18, and left Michigan when I was 18, and I came back in 30 years later.
Okay.
1998, I came back, and so I traveled all over in that period of time, but I don't know if it's like this for everybody, but there's no place like Michigan.
Yeah.
When I finally came back, I had gone through the transition of thinking I never wanted to see snow again. And I was so sick of warm weather. When I came back, it was just great.
Yeah.
And so I've been back ever since. And it was just like I never left.
That's awesome. When you traveled, was it like U.S. travel, or did you travel abroad, or was it just?
It was a combination. The military took me overseas. Then in my work, when I got back here, I traveled all over the United States. I've been to all but 4 of the states. And when I say travel, I was on the ground traveling. I was a traveling salesman, believe it or not.
Okay.
And driving a car from town to town. I was kind of like a vagabond, except I always used deodorant. Right. But in between and in various jobs that I took as I went along, I ended up traveling a good part of Europe, a good part of the Orient, a lot of Mexico, a lot of South America. Never made it to Africa.
Okay.
Never made it to Australia. And now I'm stuck on traveling Michigan, and I'll never finish Michigan, so I probably won't get to those places. But yeah, as they say, I've been around.
Okay. Yeah, for my 9 to 5, basically since 2014, 15, right around there, I have traveled a good majority of the U.S. In sales. That's what I do for my typical 9 to 5
There you
job.
go.
So with today's hustle and bustle, I don't get to do all of it by car. A lot of it I got to fly to a destination and then meet with a customer, jump on a plane and go to the next one. But I have had the opportunity to do a lot of travel throughout the, let's say, east of the Mississippi River. So, and I'm with you. When I turned 18, I couldn't wait to get out. I'm born and raised here in Illinois. Well, I was born in Fremont, at the hospital there in Fremont, but born and raised here. I grew up 8 miles from where I live right now, and I could not wait to get out.
Yeah.
I mean, I turned 18, and I think I had my bags packed before I turned 18. And I took off, and I wanted to go see different things, and I wanted to get out of this small town and go find better. And, that took me 3 or 4 years of bouncing all over the place, and I was like, you know what? None of this is like Michigan. And that's for people that don't live here, and even people that do live here, a lot of times the grass is greener is the mindset. But
you got to go. I always tell young people ask me about travel all the time. I especially tell young people, I say, go.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll still be here. Go travel. Go see what everything else is like.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah. And you can get your career going when you get back. You may find someplace you want to live.
Yeah.
Better than here. But you won't ever know unless you go. And then when you're lonely and you had enough of travel and you think back to what it was like to camp on the Pere Marquette River, you'll know where to go.
Yeah.
It won't be that hard.
Yeah. And Michigan's such a diverse state when it comes to the different types of scenery you can see from the southernmost parts of the state all the way up to the very northwestern tip. You can see a lot of different things, and I think you could spend a lifetime trying to chase them all down. And
I bet you could. I don't know about you, but when I was traveling as a career out there in the world, a lot of times I ended up spending weekends away from home. If I was so far out, especially in a car, if I was 700 or 800 miles from home on Friday morning, I would stay the weekend wherever I was. One of the things I always did was I did the tourist thing on the weekends.
Yeah.
Along with the saloons, and the gambling houses. But I made sure I got out there and saw what the local scenes were. And you can never replace that. Those memories, you can never replace those.
Sure.
So if you do travel, don't just go. Part of the thing is the journey's part of it.
It's the journey is the destination.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And you'll never forget. I'll never forget going to the Carlsbad Caverns, and it was only because I had a weekend and I was stuck out there, and so I went.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I'm a big food guy. I love different kinds of food. And my wife and I, we watch like Food Network. I don't know if you've ever watched Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins, and
Why, sure.
That's like one of my things when I travel is I look up, has Guy Fieri been to a restaurant? And I'll go try to find that restaurant. But no, that's really cool. So now you reside here in West Michigan.
Right.
Is this where you came back to in '98?
Well, I came back to DeWitt.
Okay.
It was a family thing that brought me back, helped take care of the folks. They were getting to the point where they needed help, and I was the only one who was in a position to. I was living in Florida at the time, and I was the only one who was in a position to just drop what he was doing,
sure,
and come back, which I did. And so I came back to DeWitt and helped them get on with their illnesses and then pass on. So that's how I got back.
Gotcha. Okay. When did you come back to West Michigan?
Just sheer bad luck all around. I mean, I was living in the Upper Peninsula.
Okay.
And in a town called Nama. We'll get to it.
Okay.
And I'd wanted to live there from the time I found it. I always thought if I could live anywhere in Michigan, and by that time I was well into Michigan Backroads in my whole career, and of all the places I'd visited, I felt like if I could, I would either live on Beaver Island or I would live in the town of Nama. And as circumstances happened, I was able to take up residence there. Long story.
Okay.
And was very happy. And everything was working out just the way that the way you planned it. I mean, I should have known something was coming, but I didn't. And then on the porch one evening, sitting out with everybody, watching the sunset, I met Kathy. That's it. That's all she wrote. Kathy lives in Hart. Now I live in Hart.
Now you live in Hart.
She wasn't moving to the UP.
Yeah.
That was rule number one. Too cold up here, not going.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
that's how it happened. Okay. And Hart happens to be a beautiful place. Oceana County's fantastic.
It is.
It's gorgeous.
Place.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we spend a lot of our summer weekends up in Ludington, Buttersville Campground.
Yeah.
That's one of our favorite places to go. It's a quick drive from here. Just nice little getaway, but we always like to cruise down to Big Heart Brewery and enjoy a little bit of their food and a couple adult beverages.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, it happens once in a while. All right, so I'm going to look at my show notes here because I forgot to print them. But when did this begin? When did the journey into being an author, when did that really begin for you? Have you always had a passion for writing since you were young? When did you start saying, I want to put some books together about all these different places in Michigan?
It never really was quite like that. I've always had a passion for Michigan. I've always had a passion for history. But what happened? This was never intended. I never planned to be an author. It was just one of those things. And the way that it came about is I used to build log and twig furniture. That's what I did.
Okay. And
I traveled all over Michigan doing arts and crafts fairs, selling my log and twig furniture. My booth was not a tent. It was a 6-sided gazebo that I could break down and haul, and I would set that up for my booth.
Okay.
So you'd know when Ron was there. And I was so broke that I couldn't. All I could afford was this trailer and a big old beat up truck to haul stuff around in. And the truck was so bad I couldn't get it above 55, so I couldn't use the interstate.
Okay.
This thing would be smoking down the road, and the police would pull me over and make sure that what are you hauling all this? So I would take all these back roads.
Okay.
And I started seeing things that I had never seen when I lived here originally. So I wrote them down. I said, I got to come back and check that out. Then I needed a catalog for my furniture because I was wholesaling to shops and and people were coming and buying. So I needed some kind of a catalog. Well, you can't print color catalogs over and over and over if you're out making willow furniture. You're just too broke. You can't do it. But there was a thing called the internet coming along, and I needed a website. So I've always been self-taught. And so I went out and bought a copy of a program, they called them programs then, kids, not apps, called Front Page by Microsoft. You could buy it for $20, and you could learn how to build a website with it. And so I thought, well, I'll use that, and I'll use a website for my catalog.
Okay.
And so I took, because I had pictures, thousands of pictures, and I did that. And so one thing led to another. And I was at a show one day, and this guy heard me talking. This might sound familiar to you. And he comes over, and I was talking to a bunch of people, telling some kind of a story, some tall tale. I don't remember what it was. And at the end of that, this guy comes over and he says, you should write a book. And I said, no, I shouldn't. He said, oh, yes, you should. I said, I don't want to. I said, I write web pages every day. I'm writing every day. I don't want to do more writing. And I just don't know that I'd be any good at it. He said, if you can write it down the way you tell it, if you can learn how to write your stories the way you tell your stories, excuse me, you'll do very well. So we argued about it a little bit more. And finally, I said, well, I don't want to have to go through the hassle of fighting with publishers and losing control of what I have to say and how things are going to be presented and how they look, and then end up getting 14 cents royalty on each book. And he said, no, you're not going to have that problem. I said, really? He said, yeah, I'm a publisher. I said, well, why are you going to be different? He said, because I'm going to teach you self-publishing. He said, the publishing industry, now, this was taking place back in 2006 or 7 when this conversation was happening. He said, that's the way the industry is going. Websites are there. The internet, people are going to be self-publishing. And for certain kinds of things, like what you would do, it's going to be the wave of the future. That's what's going to happen. Small authors will be able to self-publish. And what I'll teach you is you'll have control. You'll control the costs. You'll control what everything looks like. And you will make the money. I said, okay, where's the hook? What do you want? Yeah. And he said, I want 10% for the first year. That's it. He said, now sign that. So this is the guy I met 5 minutes ago.
Sure.
So I said, okay, all right, tell me what to do. And he did. His name was Bruce Carlson from Iowa. Hey, Bruce, buddy. And he taught me how to do it. And that was how the first book came into being, was because this guy talked me into it.
Very cool.
And it was called Michigan Backroads 1. Some people still have it, but that's how it happened.
That is a really cool story.
Well, let me tell you the rest of it.
All right.
Let me tell you what happened. So I write this book. Took a year, and it was about this big. It's about that big. Took me a year, and it was miserable. The process was miserable. I hated every second of it. And but I thought, when I finally got the thing done, and he had told me how to find a printer and how to do all of that, I knew how to do everything. So I had all of that. So I got it printed, and I had gotten around to some shops and was able to wholesale it out to shops. And it was over. And I was so happy. I mean, I'll never have to do this again. And even if nobody ever buys it, I can give it away as some kind of a promotional thing, at the arts and crafts fairs. Sure. And I'm just through with this. And I got a call about 2 months later from a store that doesn't exist anymore, an old 5 and dime that was up in St. Louis, Michigan. Jim and his wife were up there, and he calls me on the phone. He said, hey, Ron, when are you coming out with number 2? And I said, number 2 what? Because I'd forgotten all about this. He said, you're Michigan Backroads 2. I said, what are you talking about? He said, it says right here in the back of your book, coming September 2008, Michigan Backroads 2, more road trips and festivals. Well, I had forgotten. Because this guy, Bruce Carlson, told me what you do is you put a coupon in the back of your book. See, and then people can pre-order it to help you defray the costs for doing the second one.
Sure.
Well, I said, well, I'm working on it. And he said, well, could you work harder? I got orders. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, how many you got? He said, hold on. How many do we got? And wait a minute. He says, we have orders for 18 copies. I said, all right. I said, I'll move it along. So I hung up. And I thought, man, now what? So I called a bunch of shops. And I actually they said, oh, yeah, we've got people who would take it. Yeah, and we added up. I had orders or potential orders for about 230 copies of a book I hadn't started writing yet. So I wrote it, Michigan Backroads 2. It was much easier because I had the formula now.
Sure.
I knew what the structure was going to be, and I had all the information. I had loads. Because I'd been doing I'd been traveling the roads for years at this point. So, and the website was pretty good size by this point. So it didn't take anywhere near as long. The same thing happened again as soon as number 2 hit, people wanted more. So eventually there was Michigan Backroads 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are now been taken out of print and been replaced with this newest series just because things change.
Sure.
And one of the points about my travel books is they get rewritten every printing. I print once a year, each edition, each title, and I go through them chapter by chapter to make sure that the shop is still there, the restaurant is still there, the trail is still there.
Everything's up.
So that you don't drive somewhere for 2 hours and get there and say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It doesn't look anything like that.
This place has been closed for 5 years.
Yeah. So that's the long version of how the whole thing came about. It's just, I always tell people, just bad luck all around.
Well, it seems to, you seem to have a passion for it. So
yeah, it's worked out great now.
It's funny how some of the things that we, maybe glean the most fruit from are things we never intended or anticipated being a part of, right?
It happens all the time. This book here, Michigan Backroads and Pictures, shameless plug. All these books have a map,
Yep.
It shows the page number. This one's got 100 destinations done in pictures. This book, I'm not a photographer, except that I am. I didn't know it.
Sure.
But at the show that you saw me at, I probably had a television behind me with a slideshow running.
Yes. Yep.
And I always have that. And it's got about 300 pictures of all the hundreds I've taken. And at a couple of shows, shops that buy my books, they would say, you should do a picture book. You got great pictures. You should do a picture book. Really? Oh, yeah, we put it in the shop. Oh, okay. Duh. And so we put this together, and it's been very, very popular. And people have said, are these all of them, or you got more pictures? So now we're thinking about, either making it bigger or doing a second edition. But these are oftentimes you don't know how good some of your stuff is unless you stick with it long enough for other people to come and tell you.
Sure.
Hey, you're doing good. Keep going.
Yeah.
Because usually we don't hear that part, do we?
Not very often. No.
We hear the other part.
We hear the other part.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, even with doing this podcast, it's funny when I look at it, I get a lot of very positive feedback, as you were getting. But what hung on me the most when I first started was every negative comment. Somebody, for every 100, and I got one negative comment, I would hang on that one negative comment. Yeah. And it's like, finally I was like, I don't care, I'm not going to let one negative comment when other people are enjoying what I'm doing. And I don't know if that was the same for you, but I find that I'm much more at ease with what I do and enjoy what I'm doing when I just don't let the negative comments kind of dictate my mood about what I'm doing. So.
Well, it was very much the experience. MichiganBackroads.com is the website. That was my first website. I've got 2 or 3 of them now. That came from a conversation with a guy who was telling me about some guys who had started a website out in California called Napa.com. This was at the beginning of the wine boom. Now we're talking 1999. This is what I'm talking now. And they were getting 6 million visitors a year. And he said, if you can come up with something like that. So I did a search around, and I was able to buy MichiganBackroads.com and TravelInMichigan.com and Up North Michigan.com. Great names.
Sure.
Great domain names. And when I started MichiganBackroads.com, trying to get people to advertise on it, almost everybody, I'm going to say easily 96%, said, well, you're never going to get anywhere with this. I said, Travel Michigan. The state's doing this. Now it's called Pure Michigan.
Yeah, yep.
But in those days, it was something else. And they said, you're never going to be able to compete. And as it turned out, of course, I was, because I was doing places you never heard of. And they were talking about Marquette.
Sure.
2 different points of view on the same subject matter. And the same thing happened with the books. Oh, the first ones were pretty bad. They were pretty bad. But that's what you have to do. You have to stumble and fall, and you get up and you do it again. And if you are convinced, and if it is something you are passionate about, then you'll keep going. Nothing's easy.
No.
Nothing's easy.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. And you just have to, but you need rules. I'll tell you, if you don't mind, I'll tell you the rules, because none of this would have gotten to where it is now. This is my living now. This is what I do. And has been for several years. But when I decided to do MichiganBackroads.com, I came up with just a couple of rules that I would follow when it came to the criteria. For instance, the destinations that I originally started on it had to be not on a highway. It had to be not famous, and it had to be fun.
Sure.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was the criteria. And if it didn't meet one of those, like if it was on a highway, or if it was famous. I mean, for instance, that's why for many, 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 many years, I have never had a single mention in all of my work of Mackinac Island. And I was being interviewed one time, and they were talking about, well, what do you write about in Traverse City? I said, I don't. How can you write about traveling in Michigan without writing about Traverse City? I said, it's easy. I said, they're too famous for me. You don't need me to find Traverse City.
Yeah.
You just don't need there's plenty of that. The state's taking care of that. Traverse City takes care of that.
Right.
So the other thing was that there would be in the podcasts and the books and my presentations, there would be no preaching, no profanity, and no politics. Those are the 3 set rules that I do. And every time I get ready to do something, if one of those, if it didn't match up, didn't do it.
All right.
And it keeps you on track.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great point. I got to work on the profanity thing. I'm usually pretty good. Every once in a while, one slips into a podcast.
It can happen.
I try to behave.
I like profanity myself, but
some people don't.
Yeah.
When you're traveling, I guess I'm going to back up here.
Sure.
One of my favorite things since I was a kid has always been taking trips up north. And I know that's a highly debated topic in Michigan as to where up north begins. So I guess I'll give you my perspective on where up north is. For me, up north was about Gaylord. When I got up to about Gaylord, I was like, all right, I'm heading up north. But one of my favorite things since a kid was getting across the bridge, and it wasn't to go to Mackinac or, go to Munising. It was I loved, and I still love, getting on a highway, cutting off the highway, and just hitting some random town. That's always been something I've loved. And if the town has like a little museum, even better, because I love, maybe this is just me and one of my weird titches, I guess, but anytime I go anywhere, I always, as I'm driving through a small town, I'm like, what made people decide this was this?
What happened here?
What happened here? Was it logging? Was it a great place for cattle? What brought people here? So I've always loved that. I always loved going to little local museums. When my kids were younger, we would take our trips to the UP, and that was part of our thing. I'm like, well, we're going to go find a little town and see if they got a little museum, because I just love the history of that stuff. So where is up north?
I'm going to answer that question, but I have to just touch on this museum thing, because people are going to think you set this up.
Okay.
But I do the same thing.
Do you?
Always. And in everything that I've written, almost every chapter of all these books, there'll be some history in it, the backstory of the history of that place. And I always go to the museums, and I've written about museums. And there's a lot more of them on my websites than there is in the books, just because.
Sure.
So I get that. Well, growing up where I grew up, up north started at Clare.
Okay.
That's where, from when you lived in Clinton County, up north, it started at Clare. You weren't really up north until you got to Indian River.
Okay.
And of course, then across the bridge.
Yep.
But that's not how everybody sees it.
Yeah.
When I was building rustic furniture, I would give classes, and I had a fella come in to learn how to build rustic furniture. And this class consisted of us being in my shed, a building about twice this size, decorated just like this, and we would build a bent willow table, and that person would take his project home with him at the end of the day. So it took all day. And this required a lunch break and beer break, because it's thirsty in there with all that sawdust.
Sawdust dries you out.
So we're having our break, and he says to me, this kid was from Ohio, and he says to me, so where do you go ice fishing? It was in the middle of the winter when we were doing this, and nice heat. Where do you go ice fishing? I said, man, I don't ice fish. And he was astounded. He said, what? I said, no, I don't ice fish. He said, you live up north and you don't go ice fishing? Well, this was the first time I'd ever heard of the Lansing area being referred to as up north.
Sure, yeah.
I'd never even heard the concept before, but this was somebody from Ohio.
Yeah. So
we were up north. So I looked into that. And at one time, up north was north of US 12. That's the Great Sauk Trail, goes from Dearborn to Chicago. It's an old Indian trail, and then became a stagecoach trail. And then it was a major roadway in the 60s.
Okay.
All right, that was the road, the US 12. And at that time, for many years, many years, to people from foreign countries like Canada or Ohio, anything north of US 12 was the wilderness. There were wolverines up there, and that was up north. There were bears.
Yeah.
If you were south of that, you were in civilization. So that perspective is one that I try to keep in mind, even though I have trouble convincing people that the Kalamazoo River Water Trail is up north. It just, it isn't to people. So for us, it was always Claire. And then a lot of people said, when they started seeing white birch trees, birch bark, then you knew you were getting there, because you were, yes, the journey's the thing. But man, when you were getting ready to go to the UP, you wanted to get there.
Oh, absolutely.
You wanted to get there. Okay, I've seen that birch tree. Let's go. Step on it. Step on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was recording last week with a gentleman from the UP, and we were talking about it. And the UP is just a special place to me. And when I was talking to him, I said, first, as long as I can remember, when I was so excited to get to that bridge, and then when I got across the bridge, it was like everything slowed down. Like my blood pressure, my heartbeat, everything. And I just felt very much at home in a very natural place. So, and I still feel that way anytime I go to the UP. And my oldest daughter is 24. And when she wanted to start looking at colleges, we went to several universities. Michigan, we were in Michigan area. We were in Indiana. I think we went to a couple in Ohio. And she always loved the UP. Anytime we went up there, she was the one who would cry when we were coming back across the bridge. She wanted to stay up there. So then she started talking about, well, what would you guys think about me going to northern Michigan? And I'm like, I think you'd love it. So we went up there. I took her up. We did a weekend tour up there, and she was like, we don't have to go anywhere else.
This is it.
So
This is it.
She spent 4 years up there, absolutely loved it. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see her move back once the career and everything starts to settle in. So
cool.
What's when you're doing all this backroad travel, where do you find to be the most interesting places? Is it south of the bridge? Is it north of the bridge? Or is it just a great mix of different portions of the state?
It really depends on subject matter. I can give you, if you'd like, I can give you 3 or 4 examples.
Absolutely.
And just run them across the whole state. We always want to go north, but there's a lot, and I'll get to the north, but I'll give you a few down here that you may have never heard of.
Okay.
One of them, you may want to plan this for Mother's Day, is the Trillium Ravine. Have you heard of that?
I've not.
Heard of the Trillium Ravine? So this is a deep gorge that is about 50 or 60 feet deep, a couple of football fields long, little canyon. And at a certain time of the year, Mother's Day, that entire canyon, that gorge, will be completely covered with trilliums. So for people who don't remember what a trillium is, it's that flower with 3 petals on it. You see them growing in the ditches in the spring. Well, when you see those pop up here in the Newaygo area or anywhere in central Michigan, the Trillium Ravine will be in full bloom.
Okay.
And you need to go right then. You got about 2 weeks and then they're gone. And in this ravine, so you walk into this ravine and you can't believe it. You're completely surrounded as far as you can see in every direction with multicolored trilliums. And women love it. Sure. I mean, it's a great Mother's Day trip. And it's the only time that it's consistently fully in bloom. And there are very rare tulips growing in there. There are poppies growing in there. There are 2 or 3. This is some flowers that grow in that ravine. This is the most northern point that they grow in.
Oh, okay.
And this is the only place in Michigan. And it's because the climate down in that ravine is just low enough compared to everything else that everything blooms way early. So that's a great natural wonder. It's right near Buchanan, by the way.
Okay.
You need to go to the website or buy the book to get the directions, because you can go to Niles or Buchanan and say, how do I get to the Trillium Ravine? And they will not have heard of it. And it's just a few miles away. And there's no signs on the road. You have to know where to go before you see the big sign. You have to know.
That's wild.
So that's one.
Before you jump off from that,
Yeah.
that's just, to me, so I'm very familiar with the Niles area because in my line of work,
there you go.
I travel Niles all the time. And you would think, as outdoorsy as I am, I would have stumbled upon something like that, and I had no idea.
Never heard of it, yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's a really great spot. On a different, and still down in the south part of the state, I'm going to work myself away from south to north. By the way, that is very near Warren's Woods, too, which is where the magic mud is. We can get to that subject a little bit further on if you want to, but that's an old growth forest that's down there. And but over on the other side of the state, have you ever heard of the Cardiff Giant?
I've heard of it, but the
Cardiff Giant.
Can't tell you why I've heard of it.
It's back in the day. When people still read their Bible every day, there's a passage in the Bible that says there were giants in the earth in those days, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, back in the 1800s, a guy was having a foundation dug for his.
That's where I remember hearing.
For his barn, and they stumbled onto this 11-foot giant, petrified in the ground. And there's pictures of it being brought up out. And I won't go through the whole long story because it's entertaining, but we have other things that we want to get to. But it turned out it was a hoax.
Okay.
All right, it was a hoax. And it was discovered because P.T. Barnum got involved, and this farmer and P.T. were coming into a town on the same day. Hilarious story. The copy of that, P.T. Barnum copied it. That's what happened.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where the original is, but the copy is in Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum in Farmington Hills.
Okay.
That's where the original is. And if you've never been to Marvin's, you'll have to wait because they closed it to move it.
Okay.
But this was a place where you could go in, and not only was the Cardiff Giant there were all kinds of archaeological finds there, and then all these machines from the pinball days. And machines that they used to have on the Midway at carnivals before they had the kind of oversight we have these days. Like they had one where you stick your hand in the machine and your mother-in-law cranks it to see how much electricity you can handle. You know, they had that machine and all kinds. So Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum is supposed to reopen this summer.
Okay.
And it is full of artifacts that you'll find nowhere else in the world. And there are objects there that were used in tricks by all the greatest magicians. Houdini, Blackstone, all these guys. This guy's collected all that. 5,000 square feet of hilarious stuff. And it was all hands-on. And most of the machines, you could play with them for free. Yeah, it was a great place to take kids because you could just go in and play. But that's where the Cardiff Giant was.
Okay.
So so there's that kind of a thing. I'll give you another nature destination. You're an outdoor guy. Have you been to the Iargo Springs?
I have not.
The Iargo Springs is a sacred springs area. You probably never heard of this one either.
No.
But you know where Lake Huron is, and you know where Oscoda and Tawas City and the Ausable River. You probably fished on the Ausable River. If you drive out of Oscoda up the river road along the Ausable River, eventually you'll come to a place where the Lumberman's Monument is. Right near there is a little sign that says Iargo Springs that way. And you drive over there and there's nothing there but a parking lot. It's just, you know, what's going on. Then you find this kiosk and there'll be pictures and it'll tell you. And then you're looking over Cook Pond. So if you know where that is on the Ausable River, that's what you're looking over. It's near Mile. And you go down these stairs, all 300 of them, straight down. It's over 200 feet down there.
Okay.
And there's these boardwalks, and all through there are all these springs bubbling up, and they've dammed some of them, so there's little waterfalls down there. It's a magical, magical place. And I've been down there 3 times because you have to come back up, and there's only one way up, you know, so you think about it before you go down there.
Yeah.
Because there's 300 steps down, and I think it's about 627 coming up. It seems that way, you know? Yeah, and it takes a lot longer. Fantastic, beautiful, pure water. While you're down there, you'll almost certainly run into a little kid, 12 or 13 years old, whose granddaddy just sent him down there with a couple of jugs to fill up with water, and then he'll run back up those stairs. You'll never catch. That's a beautiful, beautiful spot. And if you can handle the steps, you'll never forget going to Iargo Springs. You'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can think of one more here on well, let's see. I'll do a couple in the Upper Peninsula. Maybe there's a couple more in the lower, but I'll give you a couple in the Upper Peninsula.
Okay.
Because you see, these are all season things, because some things you're indoors, some things you're outdoors. Trillium Ravine is strictly spring. Iago Springs, you'd want to do it in the summer. It'd be brutal to do it in the winter. In the winter, in the Upper Peninsula, there's my favorite is probably Eben Ice Caves. And if you've never been to the Eben Ice Caves, they are up near Munising.
Okay.
And it used to be very, very difficult, very dangerous. It's in the Rock River Gorge, and you would park and you would have to walk across this field about a half a mile in the wind. Then you'd come to the woods, and there was a sign there that says treacherous trail, and it was. Somebody got taken out every year with an injury. Very narrow, very icy, very slippery, no handrails,
Sure.
Things you had to jump across. A real live treacherous trail.
Sure.
You get down to the river, walk along the river for a half a mile, and then you would come to this cliff, and high up the cliff, 60, 70, not true, sorry, 40, 50 feet up were the ice caves. And so you had to climb up the cliff.
Oh, wow.
To get to the ice caves. Now, today you still have to climb up the cliffs. There's no other way to get up there. But they've improved the trail dramatically. They've eliminated the field, and you drive down, and they've got a nice parking area down there now, and the trail has been completely redone. So almost anybody in any physical condition can now handle this trail.
Gotcha.
You're not going to be able to climb up there, and it is extremely dangerous to climb up there. There's no way around that. But it is spectacular.
Are those naturally formed?
They're naturally formed, and February 10th is when we would always go the week of February 10th because it was guaranteed to be cold enough. And what's happening is these are limestone cliffs that were the result of the river cutting its way down through this, forming this gorge, and water flowing through the cracks in the limestone cascades down these cliffs and forms these huge sheets of ice.
Okay.
And the caves are formed by those ice sheets.
That's
beautiful.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So that's a great winter destination. Another cool summer one that I think is one of the best museums in the entire state is the Mineral Museum in Houghton. Did you make it to that one when you were running around up there?
No.
So I went there to photograph a slab of float copper, which is native Michigan copper, and this piece was found in the 1970s in Lake Superior, and they hauled it up out of there. Weighs 17 tons.
I think I might have been. Is that piece of float copper at that museum?
Yeah, it's sitting outside in a pavilion.
Then I believe I have been there, but I was young when I went.
Yeah, so that's there. And so I went to get a photograph of that because in the next edition of Oddities and Rarities, I'm dealing with the whole copper mystery, about where all the missing copper went. This is a big controversial topic. I've done years of research on it. I've never written about it. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and do that. But that's why I wanted the picture of and I met the guy who actually found it and was able to interview him. But inside that museum, I went in and I said, well, I'm here. I may as well walk through, right? You're here.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd take 15 minutes, paid my $5. That's what they want. I was in there for almost 3 hours. Just the fossils that they have found. This is full of minerals that have been found in Michigan mines.
Okay.
And they have a whole room of copper. That's great. And then they have the iron room, and they have all these rooms and all these minerals that have been found. Just the fossils alone will keep you in there. Then they have a room that you go to about twice the size of the room we're in now, and you go in and you turn the lights off. And black lights come on, and inside these glass cases are all these minerals that glow in the dark. Kind of like the Uper lights. You heard of Uper lights?
Like a Uper light?
Yeah, but these are all different kinds of minerals that glow in the dark. Just going there for that room will take your breath away. So, great museum. We went there. We went up to Houghton to see for Snowfest to see the snow sculptures they do every year.
Yeah.
And said, well, we're here. Let's go get a picture of this piece of copper. And that's how I discovered that one. So that's a few of the.
Yeah.
I can do this for about 4 more hours if you want me to.
Right. Yeah. We'll talk about every single one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? Not like necessarily a particular destination, but where's your favorite area of the state? to, like, if you could just pick a place to travel to for the weekend, in August, like, where would that be?
It's a totally unfair question, and you know it.
I know.
But this is a question I get asked all the time, because people ask me, "Where's your favorite?" And my response is always, "What season?" And you preempted that by saying August. So I'll have to give you 2 or 3.
Okay.
All right, I'll have to give you 2 or 3. I made it a point to explore the northeastern part of the Lower Peninsula, an area that's often overlooked. Mm-hmm. Just like the Thumb. The Thumb is often overlooked.
Yeah.
And I have a great deal of information on places to go and things to do in the Thumb. But in the Northeast, that's where Iago Springs is.
Okay. Yeah.
And the River Road is up there. And the dinosaur gardens are up there. And the Underground River is up there, near Aquioc Falls.
Okay.
Is up there. So, you know, that's an area that gets overlooked, and going that way, if you just decide you've had enough, you can just go to the Pigeon River Wilderness, which I imagine you've been all over with your...
I've been there, yeah.
Yeah.
I spent a ton of time in
it. It's fantastic. I mean, what is it? 12,000 acres or something like that. It's 12 miles by 20 miles with almost no signs.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a great place. That added to my, I hold the record for getting lost on the back roads of Michigan, and I added to my record wandering around in that place one day.
Yeah.
But Beaver Island is another great destination for a weekend, and you can take the ferry out there, or you can fly. Mm-hmm. Flying, you're there in 20 minutes. You'll have to make arrangements for a car ahead of time. But Beaver Island is a place that most people have heard of but never really gotten into. It's about 37 square miles. There's only one town. That's where you land or your boat takes you, St. James. And there's a couple of Irish pubs there and a few shops. That's it. Then you have the island, and out there is where you're going to find Protar's tomb, and you're going to find a fairy grotto, and you're going to find the shoe tree, and you're going to find Miller's Marsh, that has such perfect color in color time that all national magazines back in the day, before there were phones and all that, but back when you used real cameras,
sure,
would send photographers there to take the picture for their calendar of colorful trees reflected in water.
Okay.
They'd be all these photographers from Life magazine, everybody be out there. The environment on Beaver Island is so pure that there's a brewer, a distiller in Grand Rapids, who sends students out there every spring to harvest juniper berries for his gin.
Really? Because
it is so pollution free. The way that it is, and the way the currents go and the winds go, it is one of the most pollution-free environments in the United States.
Wow.
It's also, birders love it out there because it's a migratory stop for about 200 different kinds of birds. So I can go on and on about Beaver Island, and great museums, by the way.
See, that's a place that I've never gone. I mean, I know where Beaver Island is. I'm very familiar with it. I've always wanted to. It's one of those spots where it's like, I got to do a little planning. I can't just hop in the car and cruise here. I got to get the ferry and all that stuff. But it's definitely on my list.
Yeah, it's not that tough, and it's well worth it. But you want to do some research because, for instance, you're in St. James and you decide you're going to go down and you want to take a couple of the trails. You want to walk some of the trails, or you want to see, there's a stone circle out there, a gigantic circle made of stones out there that's 300 feet across. It's an ancient calendar.
Okay.
And you might want to go check it out. It's very easy to get to. You can drive right to it. But when you get out of town, a couple of things happen. The roads turn into gravel, first. Second, your GPS will stop. Third, your telephone will probably stop. Last time I was there was only one cell tower on the island.
Sure.
And it had intermittent service because an osprey had built a nest in it a couple of years earlier, and the birders won't let them go up there and run him off. Yeah. So there's certain times here that doesn't work that well. And then you'll come to a crossroads, as you will, because you're trying to get somewhere. The street signs are in Gaelic.
Okay.
All right, you can't read it. So, and if your phone does work, you can't call anybody and say, how do I get to Pog? I don't speak Gaelic, so apologize to everybody for the... So it's a great fun.
Yeah.
All right, and you can't get lost. Eventually you're gonna, like in the lower peninsula of Michigan, if you drive 85 miles and you're not looking at one of the Great Lakes, you're in Ohio.
Yeah.
Turn around and go back. All right,
You've gone
you can't
too
get
far.
In Beaver Island. Eventually, you're going to come to the lake,
Yeah.
and you just follow it around, and you'll get all roads lead back. But you can wander around out there for a while. So you go to the visitor center and get the big map,
Yep.
and it has all this information on it, and it has those streets with little X's, so you know what's near there, so you can find. I call them streets; they're roads.
Sure.
So that's Beaver Island.
If somebody was going to go to Beaver Island, from your experience, how much time should they dedicate to, like, if they really want to immerse themselves in Beaver Island, how much time should they plan for?
If you are going to immerse yourself, you're going to go. If you're going to immerse yourself, you're going for the history.
Yeah.
That's what's going to bring you. If you're going to go camping and do some hiking and trailing and things like that, a weekend will do.
Okay.
A day trip is very tough. You're only going to see a tiny little bit. You'd almost have to go when they have one of the festivals, like they have Ride the Beaver, which is you take your bicycle out there and you circumnavigate the island with all the other bicyclers. That's a good way to do it. For the history, you're going to want 2 or 3, 4 days.
Okay.
There's that much. And the Historical Society there is fantastic, and they have the maps. There were four groups that formed the history of Beaver Island. One, of course, was the Native Americans, the Indians, and they're still there, very much present there, very vibrant part of the community.
Yep.
Then came the Eastern Europeans, the Latvians, the Estonians. They were there, and their footprint is still there. Their fingerprints are still there. Then came the Irish. That's why they have the Irish pubs.
Okay.
And in fact, there's a road named Darktown Road. And people think, well, how can they still have this racist, Darktown? Why would they? Well, it had nothing to do with that. It was called Darktown because the Irish who settled there were dark-haired.
Okay.
They weren't red-haired. That was called Darktown. That's where the dark-haired Irish were. And then, of course, the Amish were there. King Strang was there. And he actually took over the island and ran it as a kingdom.
Really?
And so that's a very interesting part of their history. And the King Strang Hotel is still there.
Okay.
So it's Strang, Strang. And you can look it up. I've got information in my work about King Strang. And so the Amish were there. So those 4 races, those 4 groups of people formed the history of Beaver Island. And you run into, and there's so much of it that when you're going down the main street, there are big signs, big way signs that will say, on this spot such and such happened, and on this spot such and such happened. And the Historical Museum is the old the newspaper building that King Strang opened in order to print a newspaper to spread his propaganda.
Really?
It was the first newspaper in northern Michigan.
Okay.
Eventually, he became a member of the Congress here in the state, the legislature here.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you're into history, you can spend a lot of time out on Beaver Island.
No, that's really cool. It's one on my list, and I really need to get out there. I'd probably go spend like 5 days.
So I'm going to give you, you can easily do that. And just make sure you touch base with the Historical Society. I got lucky. When I got there, I met a guy who builds paddle boats and paddle boards and boats there. And he was a member of the Historical Society. He took me all over the island, took the day off. He knew I was writing about it, took the day off and took me all over the island. So I have many, many stories about the murders and all the strange things that happened out there. But my last destination for August, and I don't want us to get away from this, is the Sturgeon River Gorge. Have you been to that one? Nah,
Nope.
But it took a long time to get to the Sturgeon River Gorge. It took me a number of years aiming at it. So this is up almost to the Porcupine Mountains area. It's outside of Lance, actually, at the base of the Keweenaw Peninsula. And most everybody's heard of Canyon Falls. A lot of people call it the Grand Canyon of Michigan, and it's very accessible and a beautiful waterfall. But within just a few miles is the Sturgeon River Gorge, which in my opinion, my humble but most accurate opinion, is it's much better.
Is it?
Yeah, it's much better. But getting to it is a whole different story. You have to drive into the wilderness. I'm not going to give the directions here. It's in my work. You can get it in the new book, or you can get it off the website. And again, this is one of those cases where you will lose GPS and you will lose cell phones. So you have to plan ahead and know where you're trying to get to. Then you have to be eagle-eyed because this is a wilderness and you can drive right by the trailhead and come out all of a sudden well, what are we doing down here on Lake Michigan? We're supposed to be way back. You just went way too far. So you find it and you get out and you start walking down this trail and you're like, this is nothing. This is a nice little trail, not improved. You got to watch yourself. And you may have noticed when you walked in, there was a signpost there telling you how far it was. And there are all these walking sticks sitting there, Well, take one of those with you, all right? If you don't have your own. Because you'll come to this gorge and you can't see the bottom of it. It's 400 feet down there. And you're going down, and it's so steep, you do switchbacks.
Okay.
And at switchbacks, the trail's about that wide and wet, with roots sticking out of it.
Sure.
And it's like this on one side and that on the other side. You want that walking stick.
Yeah.
If you got any kind of... Now, it's not... I don't want to exaggerate. The first time we went, everybody in our party was over 70. So it's doable. But we were all experienced. We're all in great shape. We all had boots, no flip-flops, yada, yada. Yeah. You go down this thing, back and forth and back. If you get down, and then you're on this huge rock, and it's wet, and there's spray in the air, and you can hear the water roaring, and you go over and you're in this huge canyon, and you can see way up the river, and the colors at color time is just fantastic. And depending on the time of year you go, sometimes you can get down in there and get right down in the canyon, walk up and down. I had that experience once, but usually the water's roaring through there as such that you can't do that. But it is really spectacular. And I've taken a couple of people there who are well-traveled in the state. And if I ask them, if you had to pick one, they said you get to go one place, one last time. Sturgeon River Gorge is where they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
I want to check that one out. I'll have to figure out how to get the wife in there. She starts to lock up when she gets into heights like that. When it's steep.
Oh, and
she starts to lock up.
Yeah, it'll give you pause. You want to you have to pay attention going down there. It's not you can't run.
Sure.
And if you got balance issues, you really got to take the stick.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
Take the stick.
Let's see here. This is a great conversation. I knew this would be.
I'm glad you're having fun.
I love this kind of stuff.
I'm going to need a nature break here eventually.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to take a quick break right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll come back to it. All right. We're back, guys. Had to take ourselves a little nature break there, but so Ron, I love the conversation because this is all stuff that I just personally enjoy. I'm a guy when we go on a family vacation, if we're just going someplace for a weekend in Michigan, I don't jump on 131. I don't jump on I-75. We take the scenic route.
There you go.
Till it's time to come home. Usually after a weekend with 3 little girls, when we would go do our travel, I'm ready to get home. So then it was the highway home. But,
yeah, exactly.
In doing this and in spending 30 years now almost doing this, I got to imagine you've run into some pretty entertaining, funny things. So if you've got a couple stories, I'd love to hear some of the crazy or funny things that have happened.
There've been so many. I'll tell you a couple about the Upper Peninsula, and I'll tell you one that happened near Edmore, of all places.
Edmore, huh?
Edmore, yeah. But I don't do a lot of famous, but people often ask me, well, we do famous, so what's cool around the Porcupine Mountains? We're going to the Porcupine Mountains. Everybody's going to go there eventually.
Sure.
And so I'll give you a couple of things about the Porcupine Mountains. For instance, one, we were up there camping many years ago. And I had to get Wi-Fi all the time because I have a business to run and I needed my email. Mm-hmm. So the park rangers had told me, well, come to our ranger station and just sit outside there in the mornings, and you'll be able to pick up our Wi-Fi and do it through there, even though they didn't open at the hour I needed it. So I did that, Okay. And so I went to thank them for that service, and that convenience. And I said, have you ever had a Bigfoot sighting up here? You know, Bigfoot. And the ranger he says, no, we have not had a verified Bigfoot sighting, but we have had a verified Bigfoot incident.
Okay.
Really? He said, yeah, you want to hear it? Why, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this is about 2015 when this was happening. He said, yeah, it was at the height of the season, August. Campgrounds are full, you know, the mountains are full of people. All the campgrounds are full. And the guys from the History Channel came out there hunting Bigfoot, those guys who were looking for Bigfoot.
Bobo or whatever his name.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah.
And so they came out. They hadn't told the park rangers that they were coming. They came out, rented a house. And one night, middle of the night, they went up on top of one of the high hills with their sound equipment and set off all these sound effects. And apparently Bigfoot bangs on things to attract female Bigfoots. I'm not sure. And all these...
This is what we do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it went on for about 40 minutes. And then they shut the whole thing down and waited for Bigfoot to come.
Yep.
You know, that's what they... And I don't know what happened, that part. But what happened the next morning was about half of the campers fled the Porcupine Mountains. They were convinced Bigfoot was going to come down and eat Muffy. You know, and they were fleeing. They were literally checking out, and about 40% of them checked out in that one day. Really? Emptied out of the mountains. Well, the rangers finally figured out what had happened, and they went to talk to that afternoon. Went to talk to the guys. Well, they were up on the mountain and did it again the second night, and they lost a whole bunch more campers because now they were really convinced that there was a Bigfoot invasion. So that was one event that took place. They lost about half of their season because of the Bigfoot hunters. Another one that happened, it was not that same trip, but I was up there with Helga. And Helga's an interesting female companion I had at one time. She was not one of these slender bicycle riding girls you have these days. She's more robust than that and had the personality to go with it. Okay. In fact, if she came through the door right now, you'd say that's the best looking Olympic hammer thrower I've ever seen in my life. So, you know, and so we're getting ready to leave, and she said that she wanted to go around the south boundary road of the Porcupine Mountains to the other end, which is where there's a bunch of waterfalls and trails back there. That's where she wanted to go. And of course, that's the drive, and it's a beautiful drive in the color season time. That road, 2-lane, beautiful drive. And I said, yeah, well, fine, okay. So we drive out, we turn onto the south boundary road. We haven't gone even 200 yards, and there's a big barricade across most of the road. And it said, road closed 7 miles. Bridge work. And I said, oh, look at that. Now we can't go because we'd have to go all the way around to Mass City and through Rockland and to Berglund, and it's, 2 hours or something. And she said, no, keep going. I said, well, it says the road is closed. She said, no, but they always have one of those little temporary roads they build around these things so guys in trucks can get around there. We're in a truck. Keep going.
We qualify.
Okay, so we keep going. All right. We drive along, and we get there, 7 miles, and the barricade's completely across the road. And it doesn't say I told you so. It just says road closed, culvert work or whatever it said. And you can hear the machines. We could hear them down there in the woods. I said, see, it's closed. And she said, no, there's got to be one of those. They always build one of those little roads. She said, I'll go look. You stay here with the dog, and I'll go look. She had her dog with her. So we're sitting there swatting at the black flies, as you do in the Upper Peninsula. And she gets out, walks, and plunges and she's gone in the woods. About 15 minutes later, here she comes back with a smirk on her face. And I said to the dog, I said, man, I'm going to catch it now. And I'm in for it. She gets back in the truck and closes it up. She says, looks over at me, and she says, well, here's something you don't hear every day. I said, yeah, what's that? She said, you are right. There is no way to get around that thing. They've got it completely blocked off. Now, wisely, I didn't say somebody should have put up a sign. I didn't say that. But anyway, so going back, we decided we didn't want to drive all the way around, but we'd seen a couple of trailheads. And so we went back and we decided to check out this one called the Union Mine Trail. And it is my second favorite trail in that part of the Upper Peninsula. I'll tell you my first one when I'm done with this. My second favorite, great for anybody. It's a mile long. You walk in and you walk down the path and you come to a river and you walk down the river. And all along the river are all these old mines and mining ruins. And in the bed of the river, you can see a rectangular cutout, which is where they had put a water wheel in to power pulleys to pull stuff up out of the mines. And there's signs all along that tell you what you're seeing and where you are. And then it gets down a half a mile down and swings around and comes back up out. And it's just full of history. I mean, it tells you about how people used to have to, when you cross an area, that's where the Nonsuch Road was, the first road cut into the mountains. And there was even a sign that told people to strap themselves in because it was so bad that people got pitched out of their carts going on this. Yeah. So, but we never would have found that Union Mine Trail if we hadn't taken that drive.
It was Bob Ross. It was a happy accident.
Yeah, it was a happy accident. And I talked to the park rangers about it. That I said, how come there's no brochures or anything? He said, how'd you find that? I said, well, long story. I couldn't have done it without Helga.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And that's what you go. You'll find school children there. So kids can handle it. They take them out there because of the history and the signs and the ruins and everything that are there. You can really see.
Sure.
You get a feel for what it was like. Now, my favorite trail in that part of the western UP is the Mule Trail. We just did this in August. And this is the toughest trail I've ever been on in the state of Michigan. The toughest.
Okay.
The incline is 60 degrees if it's an inch.
Wow.
And it goes from the base to the top of the Norwich Bluffs. You'll have to get on the website to get all this. I don't want to give all the...
Don't give the goodies out, yeah.
Well, no, I'll give out the goodies, but the directions and all that,
Sure.
But when you climb up this thing, I mean, you're literally at this angle, like this. And there are old mines up there, prehistoric mines up there. And the view, I mean, I think it's 400 to 500 feet up.
Wow.
And so the view from up there is breathtaking. But when you drive the road from Ontonagon to the Porcupine Mountains, there is nothing to tell you that the Norwich Bluffs are just 5 miles down the road. There are no signs.
Really?
And when you're on the other paved road, which goes through Ewan and Bergland, there's no sign there. If you don't know to go up this dirt road, you'd never know that it's there. And the only other way to get to the Mule Trail and that bluff is to walk from Bruce Crossing on the North Country Trail, which is about 8 or 10 miles.
A little bit of a hike.
A little bit. Too much for me. I mean, I can do it, but I'm not going to.
Sure.
But I was, of course, to show you how smart I am. No, not me. I'm not going to take the nice, flat, well-traveled trail. Let me go climb this thing, and there's rocks slipping out from under. It's much worse coming down than it is going up. Yeah. You'll need that stick I was telling you about earlier. Yeah, you'll want one of those too coming down because it's just... But that's my favorite trail just because of the history there and the things you'll find. I won't tell you all the things you'll find along the way, like the old hidden Irish cemetery. Very cool stuff back in there.
That's awesome.
Now, the other thing I'll tell you about, or did you want
to? No, we can. I just wanted to segue off of what you just said when you talk about your trail. So, my wife is a nurse, and when she graduated nursing school, she's always wanted to go see a volcano. Oh. She's always wanted to go walk up a volcano. So we started talking about maybe going to Hawaii, and then we started looking at the prices to go to Hawaii. And at that point in time in our lives,
no big deal.
Yeah, it was a little steeper than we could swing at the time. So she started looking, and she's like, we can go to Iceland for like a third of the price of Hawaii. And I'm like, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
I love the beach, but I love exploring more.
Yeah, I would lean toward Iceland.
So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we went to Iceland, and we walked up a volcano. And the reason it makes me laugh thinking about your story is we're humping it up this super steep slope, and I'm sucking wind, and we finally get up there, and we're kind of walking around the upper part of this thing. And as we're coming around it, we look, and there's like hundreds of people walking up this nice group switchback on the other side. We walked up the hardest part of it to get up there, but we can say we did.
That happens.
Yeah. Back to what you were saying about that area.
Well, no, I was just gonna tell you one other of the unusual things that you were asking about. Wild things that happen when you're out there. So I was out. I don't remember. It's been a long time ago too, but I'd heard about this. I was going through towns as you do, and usually I just go to it. When I first started, and I still do this, although I've been so many places now, it's not quite the same. But I would just drive into the town. I wouldn't do any research. I wanted fresh eyes. I didn't want to have any preconceived notions and I didn't know. I was looking for what everybody else is driving by. So I wanted to go, even if it wasn't famous, I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so I found myself in the town of Edmore, which doesn't have a lot to recommend it.
No.
All right, it's just one of those places.
You got a lot of meat farms.
It does. And so you can get your beets for your bait pile. I know where you're going with this. This guy right here knows too.
Yeah.
But there's a museum there called the Old Fence Rider Museum.
Okay. And
it's only open by, now these days it's only open by appointment. If you call them, they'll open it up. But the proprietor is old, gotten on in years. And so you go, they were open when I went there. And so I went to the museum because that's where you can always find, you can say, what's going on around here? What don't people remember? What doesn't happen? And I'll have to tell you a story about a snipe hunt I got sent on. You'll love this. It happened in the UP. It happened more than once. But so I'm touring the museum, and I see a book or a flyer, something that's been so long, I can't remember, and it said 2-story outhouses. Now I grew up with an outhouse. All right, we had an outhouse my first 7 years. Oh, and it was a 2-holer. All right, they couldn't afford the 3-holer. The neighbors had a 3. We had a 2-holer, and one of them was usually guarded by a rooster in the wintertime, which was you had to negotiate with the rooster if you're going out there in the winter. Yeah. And with 2-story, I couldn't fathom why. I thought it was some kind of and so I asked the guy. He said, "Oh yeah." So he found a sketch and showed me how they worked, but I wanted to know why. I said, "Are there any left?" He said, "Yeah, there's one right near here." And so he told me where it was, and I drove out, and he said, it's behind a fence. It's fenced off. You can't get back there. Well, so I get out, and I got a picture from a distance. I still have that picture. It's long gone now.
Okay.
But they have built a replica that looks nothing like it. So I don't know. I mean, it's nothing like it. Right next to the rail trail out in Edmore. It's on my website. You can get but here's why. The question, why do we have to have this?
Yeah.
And it was because of boarding schools.
Okay.
The boarding schools in those days made it a point to keep the boys and the girls separated.
Yeah.
And so the boys would be on the one floor and the girls would be on the other. I don't remember which one was which. And that's how they kept them separate, kept them from hooking up, Yep. And so they would try to, the kids would try to figure out a way to meet up at the outhouse. That's the one way they could get out and have privacy.
Sure.
So they built 2-story outhouses. And the one on the ground, you could get from the ground, and the one on the second story, you could only get from a walkway.
Ah.
From the second story of that boarding house.
Wow.
Okay. So that's why the thing was built. And you can, and so it's just kind of a slot in the back of the wall is how it's kind of cantilevered is how the thing is set up to work, but it was to keep the little darlings from, getting together out there. So the replica is there, but there are none of those left. But that's one of those things that we used to have, and they used to be all over the place. They used to be they were multi-story houses. That was easier to build back in those days because unlike today, there were only the 2 genders.
Sure.
So you only needed 2 stories. Now today you'd have to have this 30-story thing. It would be a nightmare. Maintenance alone would be.
Yeah.
So.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm sitting here as you tell me. I'm like trying to picture, okay, what is the purpose?
Why do we have this
2-story outhouse? And I can only imagine how many people got pissed on walking into the bottom of it.
Now it was set up so it actually did work.
Okay.
It actually did work the way that it was constructed. There was no problem with that. But it's amazing the stuff that you run across.
What's the name of that museum again?
The Old Fence Rider.
Okay.
And they have a gigantic collection of barbed wire.
Okay.
from the original, you
Sure.
know. So, no, I didn't realize, but there were hundreds of variations
Of barbed wire.
of barbed wire.
Sure.
And so they've got collections of it. And they have collections of all the things from the various wars and the usual things you expect to find.
Sure.
But they also had information on the little-known two-story privy.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to. I'll have to check that out. I make it through Edmore quite often as I head over to like the Midland area. But,
Yeah, they got a phone number there on the door. Just call and tell them you were talking to me. And they'll say, "Oh yeah, we know that guy."
Ron said I could come see a replica of a two-story house here. That's very cool. Let's see here. Let me jump back into my notes. Well, I guess because you brought up the snipe thing, I did have in here.
I do have to tell you that.
Have you ever ran into? First of all, I'm sure you hear a lot of local lore, superstitions, things like that have permeated the spaces throughout the state. But has there ever been anything where maybe you heard about the local lore or you went and you experienced something that was a little off-putting or odd that you couldn't quite put a finger on and then later found there was local lore that kind of tied back into that or anything along those lines?
Yeah, there's actually one that it's not really off-putting, but the gravity mystery up by Frankfurt.
Okay.
Have you been to that?
No, the only gravity I can think of is
The mystery
spot.
The mystery spot, right, right. Where I've never been, by the way, too famous. But there is a spot, and we've got a video of it on the website. And a lot of people I've talked to, everybody loves this. When they go there, they are skeptical.
Okay.
But once you do it, I'll get an email from you saying, man, it's just the coolest. So there's a place near Frankfurt, Michigan. You can get the directions off my website. You need the directions. There's no signs saying go this way, go that way. There's nothing to buy out there. There's no stores.
It's my kind of place.
There's just a road. There's an old church.
Okay.
That church is the only building from a community that used to be there. The church is still there. And you go and it's a paved road, and you just pull off. And you park your car in the middle of the road, and you hold onto the wheel, put your foot on the brake, put your car in neutral, take your foot off the brake, and your car will start backing up about that fast. Way faster than you're going to think.
Sure.
It's not going to you're not going to be sitting there saying, are we moving? You're moving.
Okay.
I took Helga and them out there one time, and they didn't get a chance to experience it because there were a bunch of Germans out there with a van videoing a tennis ball bouncing up the hill. And we did that with Bob the Turtle and a golf ball. But that one, and I talk to people about it all the time, we know this is an optical illusion. We know it, but you can't prove it.
Yeah.
I had a couple of guys who were engineers who say they went out there with a level. I won't tell you what they found, but it is one of the most extraordinary just unmarked spots in the entire state. And when you go, you'll drive away and say, man, that is just the coolest. And if you can't get the directions, all you got to do is call. It's so cool, the Chamber of Commerce in Frankfurt has a map to it.
Do they?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's that one. And I found that a lot of stuff I would find, I had old history books, which would guide me. Much of what I found just by taking the road I hadn't been on.
Sure.
Somebody asked me one time when I lived near Charlotte, Michigan, how long it takes to get to Ludington. And I said, I think it's about 4.5 days. Because I had never gone I started that way, but I got to go. So, but one of the ways it used to be great is I would go to a small town, whether it was in lower Michigan or northern Michigan, didn't matter. Although what would happen in the upper peninsula was more prevalent, but you go to a little town, like White Cloud, for instance, is a good-sized town. If you go there at 6:30 in the morning, there's a coffee shop. And you walk in the coffee shop, and in the back will be a big table with a bunch of old guys back there drinking coffee, swapping lies. Yep. It's in every town.
Yep.
So I would go into those, and I would tell them what I was doing and offer to buy their coffee if they would tell me about something in the area that had been forgotten, or were there any legends, was there a creepy swamp, or was there anything? And more than one time, I would have to go back the next morning and say, that was a good snipe hunt you guys set me on yesterday. That was a good one. I'll buy your coffee again if you give me something real this time. Because that happened more than. And I know, I get out there and I'm in the middle I'm in a dead end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, these guys are back there. And of course, since I'm a troll, living beneath the bridge when I was in the Upper Peninsula.
Get it even harder.
They would love it.
Oh yeah.
So that happened. That would be, but sometimes it would backfire on them, and I would discover something that to them was very common, but to me was quite extraordinary. In fact, the Norwich Bluffs, I had been going to the Ontonagon area for years before anyone ever mentioned it to me.
Okay.
And I was trying to find the cave that the hermit lived in. No, no clue.
No clue.
Beaten Cave. There's a cave up there where a guy lived in it.
Okay.
The hermit of Beaten Cave, and I was trying to find that, and I had to be guided out there. Another cool story, but when I finally found someone who had even heard of it, they said, "Oh yeah, I think that's near Norwich Bluffs." Near what?
Right.
Norwich Bluffs. They're a little bit east of Silver City, which this helps you. I mean, this doesn't do you none of this helps. So, but that's how they would do you.
Yeah. No, that's funny. It's I can't remember what year it was, but I love, like we talked about earlier, I love going to just the different museums, and some of the folks you meet, the locals that run the museums are unintentionally hilarious with some of the stories that they can come up with and they can tell you.
Terrific.
We went to this place, I don't even remember what town it was, Ron, but they had a little museum, and inside the museum they have a loom, and the lady just sits there on the loom all day, and she just makes blankets on this.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that, and I look at my wife, and I'm like, I'm going to get you a loom. And she looks at me, and she goes, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
So, well, you're always saying you want a hobby. I think that's a great hobby.
Yeah, that'd be a great one, yeah. Yeah. No, you don't want that.
Yeah.
So you sometimes things happen when you just don't expect them. And so I think I have a lot of magical things that have happened, things that I'll never forget the experience. One time I was near Lewiston, Michigan, and I was out on the state road, which is just out in the middle of nowhere, and we'd had a real warm, moist night, and I had morel mushrooms on my mind. I said, yeah, and I knew where there was some decent topography for finding those in that area, and so I went walking in there, and I was walking, and I'm looking down, of course. And I paused. I don't remember what I paused for. I paused and I looked up, and from me to a little about that wall, maybe a little bit further, was a herd of elk. Just standing there watching me.
Sure.
You know how big an elk is.
They're big.
I mean, and I had walked right up on them, and they're just standing there watching me like, what's this fool doing out here? And so I reached. I'm trying to get my camera. Mm-hmm. And I reached, and I had to look down, and when I looked back up, they were gone. I didn't know they could move that silently. Yeah. And it blows your mind, something that's twice the size of a cow. And there had to be 6 or 7 of them standing there, and they were just gone. Yeah. And this whole transaction, looking down and looking up, was like 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, right.
You've had this happen.
No, I've not. I can picture it.
Yeah. And so I went, and I made sure their tracks were there, so I backtracked them. I wanted to know what they were doing out there, because we were not 50 yards from the road. Yeah. And just down the ways, and I didn't know it was there, but just down in the ways was a water hole, down the hill a little bit, and they'd been down there drinking, and then were going back to wherever they hang out. But, that kind of an experience, it's you just can't beat it. And then some of the other things, just camping, some of the things you see in the forest, and some of the storms you'll go through. I'll never forget the first time I was going to find the Hendry River Water Cave. It's a cave that has a waterfall in it.
Okay.
And I was going to go find it. I did not find it, I'll have you know.
Okay.
And you can't go in it without a permit. That's how dangerous it is. And you can look this up online, and the marker that is there is just as accurate as the markers on my fishing map. All right? I mean, it ain't anywhere around that marker, sure, buddy. But I stumbled across the Fiborn Karst, the Fiborn ruins, and there's an old limestone quarry up there, 300 acres, full of old ruins and machinery laying around, and it was just like it was just abandoned.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
And I'm walking through the woods and I come up and I'm, as far as you can see, here's this gigantic quarry. So then, of course, I did the research and found out that I was probably the only person around there who didn't know that it was there.
Sure.
But you wouldn't know to ask.
Yeah.
Are there any abandoned ruins around here? So you go into the ruins and it's at your own risk. At your own risk. And you can find places up in there where people have left messages and they've painted things, and there's still some of the old signs are still there. And it is near where the water cave is, but it's not in the water cave. So sometimes you stumble across history. Then I found out there had been an entire town there, and people lived their entire lives there, 1 or 2 generations.
Sure.
So you have that happen. That's very much like the Cliff Cemetery, which is a tiny little cemetery, and there's a little sign on the side of the road up on the Keweenaw Peninsula, and it's still maintained. It's been there since the 1840s. But there's no, the community's gone.
Sure.
Just the graves remain.
That's wild.
And the stories, you wonder, what was it like? What were their lives like when your life expectancy is 40 years? And you spend 30 of it in an iron mine?
Yeah.
Or in Scenic, I don't know if you've ever been through Scenic on your way across. If you go south of town, there's only 2 main roads, one going east and west, one going north and south.
So back towards Germfast?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not on that road.
Okay.
You have to take the little side road back off, and you'll come to the Michigan's Tombstone Cemetery is back in there. And that's what it's called. And you go into that cemetery, and I would guess 2/3 of the graves in there are marked unknown.
Wow.
These were people who came and were immigrated, got off in Sault Ste. Marie or St. Ignace, usually Sault Ste. Marie or Marquette, that area, got off the boat, were taking the train, headed out to the Iron Country out in the western UP, and got off in Scenic for a break, and were shanghaied and woke up in a lumber camp 30 miles into the swamp.
Wow.
And died there.
That's wild.
And were never found. And I've run into people in that museum who are there looking for records of an uncle who came from Finland, and they know that he took the train through Scenic, but was never heard from again. That's what happened to a lot of them. That's who's in that cemetery.
Wow. That's awesome to hear. It's not awesome what happened to him, but to find stuff like that,
yeah.
Like you said, if you don't know, you're never going to know.
Yeah, and you would not know to ask the question, which is, are there any of these around here? And so taking that road that's going to get you there eventually, that's how you find a lot of that kind of stuff, because you're just on a road that, it's going to take you an hour longer to get to whatever saloon you're headed for. And it's worth it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And those roads were put there for a reason at some point in time. So
yeah,
you're going to find some special stuff if you spend enough time on them. Let's jump into a little bit of travel advice. So I guess before we jump into that, can I ask if you were to describe some of your books that have these different destinations? Let's take the Michigan Backroads series. What would you describe that as? Is that like a Frommer's guide to, like, how would you describe it? If somebody's going to say, I want to pick this book up, what, besides the cool pictures and everything, is this kind of like a great roadmap for me to use? Is this an atlas type of a model for me? Is that how you would describe the books?
Yeah, there's actually about 2 or 3, 4 different formats.
Mm-hmm.
Road trips. The road trips book is exactly that, and that's short day trips.
Okay.
Each of these books is all over the state, about 1/3 Upper Peninsula, 1/3 Northern Michigan, 1/3 South. They are separated by subject matter.
Okay.
So road trips is exactly that, and it's a book that people use when they're on their way and they want to take a little side trip off to take a break.
Sure.
And it'll take you to a destination where you'll find something unusual. Maybe you'll spend a half an hour or an hour or 2 there, and then continue on your way. The Getaways books, Quick and Easy Getaways and 3-Day Getaways, are exactly what they sound like. Quick and Easy Getaways is where I take you to a town or a region and tell you everything to do there for one full day.
Okay.
Where to eat, if there's a good place to eat, where the museum is, are there any cool trails, is there a place to put your kayak in, is there a museum, is there cool festivals, that kind of thing for one day. So you're not there trying to figure out what is there to do for fun around here.
Sure.
And 3-day getaways does the same function, except that I put you in a location for 3 full days.
Okay.
Then you have Trails and Treasures, which is exactly what it sounds like. Now, Trails and Treasures is a book I never intended to write. That book was written by request because I would go and do my talks at libraries, which I do regularly. And I would have people come up, especially women, would come up at the end and say, hey, Ron, we're 3 babes in our 60s, and we don't want extreme anymore. All right, we don't want to climb a rock wall, and we don't want to go down a dune on a bike, but we want to get out there.
Sure.
So I went and did the research, and sure enough, at that time, everything in the magazines, everything was extreme. Extreme this, extreme that. So I went all over the state, and I was not a hiker. I was a camper, but I was not a hiker. I found it boring. My hiking consisted of looking for the next fishing hole or hunting mushrooms. And
which, by the way, if you're listening, Ron has dedicated a lot of time and resources to putting a book together that will give you the best morel and fishing locations throughout the state of Michigan. So if you want to find those honey holes that nobody will tell you about, pick up Ron's book.
Yeah, morel mushrooms and fishing holes. So I went and found easy walking trails that almost anybody in any physical condition can handle. Many of them are what we call handicap accessible. So that book is designed around trails, short ones, 1/2 mile to 2.5 miles. And then near each trail, I identify 2 or 3 things that you could do around it. So you can make a day trip out of the trail. Like if you want to take the kids to the Ringwood Forest, and you're out there and you get them for a walk in the woods, there's some history there. And now what do we do now? Well, right near there is the Steam Engine Institute where the Polar Express is stored.
Okay.
All right, they can go climb on that. It tells you 2 or 3 things to do. And then Oddities and Rarities. Well, actually, Trails and Treasures has turned out to be one of my favorite books because it turned me into a hiker.
Okay.
I have hiking boots on right now. Kathy and I plan trips. When I've got to go somewhere, we will research if there's a trail nearby that I haven't been on. We'll go hike.
Okay.
Of course, at this age, this stage of the game, you have to keep doing that.
Sure.
Or it's going to go downhill in a hurry, so you have to keep doing that.
Got to keep moving.
And then Oddities and Rarities was probably my favorite to research because you're probably too young to remember, but there used to be a thing called Fortean Times. It was written by a guy who researched all these strange things, all these anomalies all over the world. Then there was Ripley's Believe It or Not, which was a little more sensational, and you had P.T. Barnum. Mm-hmm. Well, I was always fascinated by those things. And so that kind of history, Michigan history, fascinated me, and I tracked down a dozen or so very strange things that exist in Michigan. And that book not only tells you what it was and the history of it, but where it is today, and you can go see it. I don't write about things that I have not actually seen. So it's not one of these things where I get you all wound up and you want to go see it, and then at the end it says, oh, by the way, this was lost in 1830. Right. I hate that when they do that. And I don't make... I'm almost finished answering the question. I don't make value judgments about any of the things that I write about. If it's Oddities and Rarities, I don't say I'm sure aliens did this.
Sure.
Or if it's how come a road is named Darktown. I don't get into that. Or the history of Idlewild. I don't get into those things. I verify that it's there. And then if it has historical value, interest, or is going to be a fun thing to go do, then I include it.
Okay.
It's got to meet those things. But I just tell you if it's real or not, and then you can decide.
Sure.
It's like the McIntosh Stone, which is probably one of the most enigmatic artifacts that exists in this state. I researched it for years. It's finally coming under the scrutiny of mainstream archaeologists, and they're still arguing about what that object is. So I describe it in full in my work, but I don't then draw the conclusion and say, I'm sure Vikings brought this. I don't get into that. That's for other people to figure that. Yeah, I'm a storyteller. I'm not a forensic archaeologist.
Yeah.
As Scott Wolver likes to say he is. Hey Scott, how you doing, buddy?
When I was 16 years old, my dad worked for the Newaygo County Surveyor, and at 16 I got a summer job working for the surveyor just as a rodman, carrying lath and pounded steak, and I did that till I was 20, and then I went to work for a different survey company. But and we won't get into the history of it, but Idlewild is a fascinating story.
Yeah, fascinating story.
Folks that don't know, and it's another one of those places, like if you don't know what Idlewild is, you don't know.
You wouldn't know to ask.
You know what to ask about.
You would know.
But
yeah.
I spent a lot of time doing surveying up there and got to learn quite a bit of the history, and it really is a fascinating story.
It is, and and right in that same area, this is, you were saying, are these travel things? So let's say somebody decides they want to go to Idlewild and drive around. How are we going to find out? Well, here's how I would do it. All right, because Idlewild's a good one. The Historical Museum in Baldwin, which is just 12 miles away, has vast amount of information on what happened in Idlewild and why and the whole thing. So you do that, and now you have used up a grand total of 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
What else is there to do around here? Well, you surveyed. Did you get out to Marlboro?
Yeah.
All right, so you know about Marlboro.
I don't know much about it, but
you know that it's there.
Yeah.
And did you get to the Shrine of the Pines?
When I was young, I've been through this.
You've been through that.
Yep.
So there's that. Those 4 things makes for a real cool day trip.
Sure, that's a great day.
It's a great day.
Yeah.
And if you decide, well, I've got a few extra minutes, I'll tell you a great story. You got time for a story?
Absolutely.
I'll tell you a great story. So you got an extra few minutes. You can, right there's the Pere Marquette River. Right, I mean, you can see it from inside the museum, the Shrine of the Pines. Well, I would always stop. There's a public access right there, boat launch, right there. And I always, when I was in that town, would go down, and I still do this to this day. I will go down to a river and get out of my car and just go stand there and listen. You know what I'm talking. Every outdoorsman knows what I'm talking about right now. And I just stand there and absorb a little bit, breathe before I got back on the road. Well, one time I went down there and I pulled in, and it was right toward dusk. And there's a guy there with a little white pickup truck, and he was putting something in the back of the pickup truck. I had a 5-gallon bucket. He was putting something in the back of the pickup truck, and I nodded, and he nodded, as you do. And just a few seconds later, less than a minute later, I heard gravel crunching, turn around, and here comes another vehicle, and it's the DNR pulling in there. And he gets out and looks at us, and and he comes over, and he's talking to us, and he happens to look down in this bucket, and he looks at me and says, "Is this your bucket?" I said, "No, sir, not mine." Looks at the other guy, "Is that yours?" The guy says, "Yeah, it's mine." And the officer says, "Well, you got trout in there. This isn't trout season. You can't be out here fishing for trout." And the guy says, "I haven't been fishing for trout." And the officer says, "Well, you just told me this is your trout bucket right here. These are your..." The guy says, "Yeah, those are pets." And the officer says, "What do you mean they're pets?" The guy says, "Yeah, me and the wife, we live out here, back toward Idlewild there. And we have a koi pond out in the back, She keeps her koi fish there. And these are trout that we caught. And we keep them in that one of the ponds back there with the koi. And she wants them to stay in touch with their inner fish. So she makes me bring them out here once a month or so and let them swim in the river where they were born." And the guy says, "What are you talking about? They'll go away." The guy says, No. We've trained them. They're pets. They eat right out of your hand. We even have a song, a little tune we whistle. And when we whistle that tune, that's when they come up. They know we're going to feed them. They come up and get... And the officer says, "I don't believe I'm hearing this guy." The guy says, "Yeah." He says, "In fact, I was just getting ready to let them go for their swim when you got here. We only let them go about 10 or 15 minutes. And the officer says, "Well, I want to see this." The guy says, "Okay." So he gets out, grabs the bucket, and pours the fish in the river. And he says, "Go ahead, guys. Now only about 10 or 15 minutes. It's getting dark." And he turns to the officer and says, "The wife doesn't like me to be out with him. He doesn't want me stopping at a saloon or something, having beers with the fish sitting in the back of the truck. So I got to get back home." So we're standing there, and it's starting to get dark. And finally, about 10 minutes goes by, and the officer looks at us. He says, "It's been about 10 minutes now." And the guy says, Yep, getting dark." And the officer says, "So, when are you going to start to whistle?" And the guy says, "What do you mean, start to whistle? I don't know what you..." And the officer says, "The special tune. When are you going to start whistling a special tune. And the guy says, what special tune are you talking about, sir? And the officer says, the special tune that brings the fish back. And the guy says, what fish?
I hope everybody caught that because I love it. Where's the evidence?
This
never happened.
It never happened.
All right, Ron, I'm pretty much wrapped up. I have a couple quick questions for you for, I guess, just travel tips. If you had 5 quick things, whether it's, if you're going to take these day trips, have these 5 essential items with you. I know everybody lives with these anymore, but
Sure.
you got to imagine to do these kind of trips, one of the most important things to carry is an actual physical map versus...
Yeah, I always have a map. I have a Michigan map in my car at all times. It's my favorite app.
Yep.
I still use that. But the phones work great. When I did most of my... In fact, I had to call you today because I couldn't find this place with a smartphone.
Yeah, with an app.
Most of the time that I was doing, when I first started, the first 10 years, I didn't have a smartphone.
Sure.
And so you're going to get lost. You're going to get lost. That's okay. That's okay. You might meet some really nice people where you stop to ask directions.
Yeah.
So a map is important. It's much more important what you have with you when you get out of the car, especially trails or beaches or anything where you're not in a city. And I can't emphasize it enough. Especially trails, you can look this up for yourself. Most injuries take place within 15 minutes of the start of a hike. So it's not when you're out on that 2 or 3 day hike where people get injured or get lost. It's in the first half hour. And so it's very important that you don't say to yourself, well, I'm only going to go in there for a couple of minutes. I don't need my backpack. Take your backpack. In your backpack, have water. This is really going to come in handy.
Sure.
Have water. I always have protein bars. 3 or 4 of them, enough of them that I could make it overnight.
Sure.
It wouldn't hurt to have a pack of wet fire. So if you get stopped out there, if you crack an ankle and you're out there at night, you can get a fire started. A compass is invaluable. On your phone, tag your car before you go into the trail. But when you walk on the trail, turn around, face your car, and check your compass so you know which direction.
Yep.
Because that's not going to fail you. And myself and another guy got badly lost in a swamp once. Badly lost in the winter, in the snow. It was getting dark. We had no idea where we were. But I had a compass and was able to bring us out within 100 feet of the truck.
Yeah.
So from a mile in. So it can happen because you get disoriented and you're having fun, So those are the things to have. The only other thing that I would say, no matter what kind of trip you're taking, whether it's in town or you're just going to go out to a trail before coming back to your camp or your hotel, whatever it is, if you're going to get out of the car, you're going to be going someplace, let somebody know when they should hear from you again.
Yeah.
And if they haven't, they need to, because it doesn't take much. I'll tell you, a guy was going along US 2, coming from NAMA, coming back down here, and it was in the winter, and you're going along that part of US 2 where you're right up against Lake Michigan, and it was in the winter, and the waves were gigantic.
Sure.
I mean, fantastic. And the guy said he had to get pictures. So they pulled over there, and at that part of the road, you can walk down to the beach, and there's little steps. You can go up and walk down these steps. Well, they parked near one of those steps, and he said, I'll be right back. And he walked over the steps and out of sight of his wife to get down low to get pictures of these waves crashing. And he didn't come back. And he didn't come back. And he didn't come back. And it was a half an hour and he hadn't come back. And she kept waiting, What is he doing down there? Doesn't he have enough pictures yet?
Right.
That man, ladies, all of a sudden a snowball hit the windshield. And so she got out and walked over. Well, what had happened was he was standing on the platform and he'd taken one step and one leg his foot missed the platform and it plunged down into the snow, and he was stuck there with one leg all the way down
Oh, geez.
to his hip
Yeah.
in the snow, and the other one stuck up on the step. and he couldn't move. And so he'd been making snowballs, throwing them up, trying to get her attention. And he was freezing to death.
Sure.
So this was a half an hour. He was soaking wet because of the spray. And he was not 25 feet from her.
Yeah.
So it's a serious, it's easy to say, I'll be all right. I'm just going to walk over here and get this picture. Take your equipment with you. That's the best advice I can give. And make sure somebody knows, if I'm not back in 15 minutes, darling, that means I fell in the snow or something. Because it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. And if I can imagine, listening to you tell these stories, you're obviously passionate about doing this and taking these hikes and stuff. And I'm the same way, even like when I'm, I go all over the place hunting deer. I go to southern parts of Ohio and I'll park and I could go, I might think I'm going in a mile and I might end up 5.5 miles.
Yeah.
And I get wanderlust really easy in the woods. Even if I'm just scouting or just walking, I'm always, what's over the next
over the next hill? What's around?
What's across that creek?
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I'm nowhere near where I thought I was going to go. So I agree with you.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. There's been a lot of times where I left the backpack. I'm like, I don't need water. I'll be right back here. Next thing I know, I'm like, I'm 4.5 miles from the car. I'm a little thirsty.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay. You can make that. But if you happen to crack an ankle, if you become that, then it becomes a real issue.
Exactly.
And if your phone's not working for some reason, or if it is, it could still take a while for somebody to track you down. So it's a real deal. And people do, it happens every year. People do get injured out on these trails. Don't want it to have it happen, but even the best equipped, I fell off the cliff climbing up to the Eben Ice Caves on my third trip there with ice cleats on, fully equipped, had done it many times, and was almost to the top when the ice gave way underneath my feet, fell, and it was like one of those cartoon things. I was going so fast, and a tree went by me. I reached out and grabbed it, all right, and caught it, and dug my cleats back in again. And when I was all settled, I pushed off, and the ice gave way again, and down I went. And I fell, they estimated 30 feet.
Wow.
Fortunately, I was well bundled, full Carhartts. So I was, it was like wearing a giant splint.
Sure.
And I landed in a creek in the soft sand, right next to a log, right next to a rock, just landed in exactly the right place. And I had Bob the wooden turtle in my backpack. My friends were already at the top, and they yelled down, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay. How's Bob?" They didn't really care how I was. They just wanted to know how the turtle was. But I did not get hurt, and I went ahead and climbed back up. But there was nobody who had done it more often, who was better equipped and better prepared mentally and physically than me. And the ice still gave way. So you have to plan. Those things can happen.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There are places out there that, and usually I will mention in a book or on the website, I will mention, even though I don't give travel advice, because I just don't give travel advice, but one piece of advice I do give is this is not a trip I would take alone.
Sure.
I would not go to this place by myself.
No, that's great for people to know. Bob the Turtle, I got to know, where did he start?
Bob the Turtle has his own book, Quest for Maple Syrup. You really want to know where Bob came from? Because Bob, I didn't bring him with me. I apologize, because he's got a mom tat. That's his mom tat on it. I can't believe I didn't bring him. I'm going to be in trouble. I lived alone for many, many years doing this, and I had never been without a pet. I'd always had dogs. And so I decided I was going to get a dog that could travel with me, and could not come up with a way for it to work. And I tried all kinds of different things. I thought, well, I'll get a cat, but they don't want to. They won't. You can't travel with them. At least there'd be a pet at home, And then I thought, well, I'll try maybe a turtle. So I got a stuffed animal. I put it on the seat of the truck in a box and took off to do a test run to see what it would be like having a pet in the car. And I hadn't gone 20 minutes and had to slam on the brake because a whitetail decided to check out the road in front of me. And the box went slam, into the windshield. And all right, that's not going to work. So I was whining about this to my brother-in-law, we were up photographing frozen waterfalls. and we were on our way to photograph some Indian burial grounds, and I was whining about all this. And I said, maybe I should get a turtle carving. You know what I mean? And finally, if you see how I go on and on and on, well, imagine being stuck with me in a truck for a week. And so he said, if you'll stop whining about the turtle, I'll carve you one. And he did. He carved this turtle and brought it up to Big Rapids. I was doing a talk at Big Rapids, brought it to my show. And so Bob now has his own book. This is a teaching book for little kids.
Okay.
And in this book, there's 3 adventures in here with Bob and his buddy Mad Horse. And in this book, we teach math, vocabulary, tree identification and safety, how to use a compass, how to read the constellations, the phases of the moon, how to stay out of the poison ivy, the secret of goldenrod, very important to know, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff, all without using a phone.
Very cool.
So it's aimed at kids 4 and up. It's full of pictures.
I love it. So
And you know the secret of goldenrod, don't you,
no,
Brad? I mean,
and if I do, I just don't know what it is. So
well, you're an ice fisherman?
yeah,
It just astounds me. You didn't have good fetching up. That's all it can be. Because this is all stuff I learned growing up on a farm. And we were talking about it one day, and somebody said, you should write that down, because a lot of this stuff people don't know it. Well, goldenrod is just a weed grown in the ditches out there, and it grows along the shoreline. Mm-hmm. Well, if you go over and examine it, it has a long stalk, and on that stalk, a lot of them will have a bulb. Mm-hmm. Crack that bulb open, and there's a grub in there that you can go fishing with.
Okay.
So you can always find, even if you can't find worms under a rock or under a log, if you can find goldenrod, you'll be able to go fishing.
Okay.
That's the kind of stuff that Bob the Turtle teaches.
That's very cool. I was always taught with goldenrod that you could snap the stalks off, dry them, dip them in wax, and you could light the goldenrod, and it would act as a makeshift torch.
Same thing with cattail.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same thing with cattail.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
So that's Bob.
That is cool. So Bob still gets to travel with you?
Bob goes everywhere. When I go to libraries. I'm going to be at the Lakeview Library next week. And when I show up, people always say, "Where's Bob?" People will come. I do a lot of arts and crafts fairs selling books, and I have people come up all the time. "Where's Bob?" They want pictures with Bob. They want selfies with Bob. They don't care anything about me.
Bob's the star of the show.
Listen, I used to do Facebook. I used to post on Facebook and Instagram. I don't do it anymore. But I used to do, and I would do mine on Mondays and Fridays, and I would do Bob on Wednesday. And if I failed to do one of mine, you never heard a peep.
Sure.
But if I didn't do the Bob the Turtle post, I got. What happened? Did you break his leg again? Is he going to be okay? What happened to Bob?
Yeah.
They didn't care about me.
That's funny. Ron, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to learn more about you, learn more about the books? If they're interested in picking up the books, where can people find more information?
Well, they probably heard all of me that they want to hear with this. Any of the information I've talked about, you can go to MichiganBackroads.com. And that links to upnorthmichigan.com, to the newsletter, to the podcast. If you're looking for a specific destination, on every page of the website is a map of Michigan color-coded by region. Click on the region you're interested in, and it'll open up with everything that I have there. Or you can go to the page that says all destinations, and there's an alphabetical listing of everything. And there's an alphabetical listing of towns, because I write about a lot of towns. So you can order the books through the website. But I always like people to shop local. You can buy my books in Newaygo, for instance, at Market 41 downtown.
Yep.
And so you can, if you want to buy local, you can get them in Baldwin. You can get in a lot of small towns. The local gift shop will carry these books, and there's a listing, like I said, by town. If you click on books, it'll show alphabetical order by town. Every place you can, the name of the town and the shop.
Okay.
So if you're in the area, you can go, and if they don't have them, they'll be reordering, because spring's coming and it's going to be travel time.
Sure.
So, but you can order them online. Shipping's free. But if you can, and you want some of the books, buy local. Yeah. And like I said, the books get rewritten once a year. Each book gets rewritten.
When do you do your updated release, if you will?
when I need them.
When you need them.
Yeah, and I try to stagger it so that I can print. I can handle the printing costs. But I only print a short run each time because I know I'm going to be updating it.
Sure.
And so I don't buy 10,000 at a time or something to keep price down, but the prices are good. And so usually no less infrequent than once a year.
Okay. Awesome. I know, like I said, we live in this world where everything we do is off from here. I mean, I have my notes on here because I updated my Wi-Fi and my printer is not synced to my new Wi-Fi yet.
Oh, there you go.
I couldn't print.
There you go.
That's why they're on here. But I have a soft spot for the written word, for something tangible, something to hold on to. And I think when you're doing stories like what you're doing, and when you're talking about things like you're talking about, I think people will get more out of. This is my personal opinion, guys. I could be wrong, but having something to hold on to, having something to feel as I'm reading through that, I think makes it even more special than zombie scrolling through a smartphone. So
yeah, that's my feeling too. And the picture book turned out to have this was something I didn't plan, but it's turned out to be pretty cool because I'm getting pictures sent to me from a phone where kids are circling the map on the back of the places where they've been.
That's awesome.
And they're riding along. Oh, Daddy, look at this. Let's go. Oh, look, there's the gravity mystery.
There. Okay. Very cool.
People do that. By the way, this set of books here is yours.
Well, thank you very much.
So
I really appreciate that. My two granddaughters are going to learn about Bob the Turtle.
Bob the Turtle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, have them get a hold of me. Let me know because their buddy Mad Horse is in there.
Very cool.
Mad Horse teaches you a little. Would you like to hear a little Michigan lore before we?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Mad Horse. So Bob the Turtle wants maple syrup for his pancakes, but he doesn't know how to identify a maple tree.
Okay.
And without leaves, because you tap at the end of winter. There's no leaves, so you got to be able to.
About now.
Yeah, getting ready to tap right now. So he's whining about that to his buddy Mad Horse, and Mad Horse says, "Well, it's easy. It's in my name. I'll teach you how to identify a sugar maple tree without leaves. There are only 4 trees in Michigan that the branches, when they divide, or the word we use, teach in there is bifurcate, where the branches are exactly opposite each other. Instead of being staggered up and down the main stalk, they're exactly opposite each other. And they're in Mad Horse's name: maple, ash, dogwood, horse chestnut. Okay. Mad Horse.
Yep.
So if you can remember Mad Horse, you can remember what they are. So if you find a tree where the branches separate exactly opposite each other, you know it's one of those 4.
Yep.
So all you got to do now is look at the bark. And once you know what the bark of a sugar maple looks like compared to the other ones, you can tap and make your maple syrup. That's the kind of stuff that's in the book.
That's very cool. Awesome.
So a great camping book.
Yeah.
Because you can go out camping. And in fact, my stepson sent me an email shortly after I'd given a copy of this to my step-grandson, Connor. And he said, "You've ruined my blind." He said, "I'm sitting out here in my deer blind looking at this tree trying to figure out if that bifurcates the right way." A whitetail just walked right by and I didn't even see him.
Didn't even see him. I was too busy determining bifurcation.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Ron, I appreciate it, folks. I hope you
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to, I don't want to give away any secrets, but do you want to talk about what's coming?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will just tee it up and I'll let you dive into it. So here in just a month or so, Ron's newest book, Up North, is going to be coming out. What exactly is this book about?
Well, this was dealing with the question what we started early, where's up north? And in fact, I really struggled with putting the Kalamazoo River Trail in this book because of the whole story of the Great Sauk Trail. But I didn't put it in because it's just too much of a hassle. So this is all northern Michigan and Upper Peninsula. And the back cover, usually on back covers, we have a whole blurb about what the book is about. The back cover of Up North says, road trips, trails, legends. That's all it says. And that's what's in there. But it has the legends part is where we tie some legends together with road trips. And even though I don't do famous, a lot of people do famous. So in this book, I deal with Mackinac Island. I've never written about it before, but the presentation is everybody goes out to Mackinac Island and they go see the same things. They go see Skull Cave and they go see the Arch in the Rock, the Arch Bridge. Well, I talk about those destinations, but I tell you what the Native American legend is tied to each one.
Very cool.
The old lore. It has the mule trail in it, which I talked to you about. So it's got some of the more difficult trails in it. It has a couple of other things that are unique to this book. One is some of the legends. For instance, everybody knows where Picture Rocks is. Well, west of there is Scott Falls, outside of Munising, and there's a little roadside park there, right across from Scott Falls. And if you get off and walk, you only got to walk a few feet, and you're on Lake Superior. Well, if you look to your right, about 500 feet away is a cliff. There's a face carved in that cliff. And then if you know where to look, you can still see it. It's been there since the 1800s. And that face is the picture of an Indian who was known as Powers of the Air, who was one of the last remaining males to survive on Grand Island.
Wow.
And it tells the story of how the male population died a heroic death in a battle against the Sioux. And it tells the whole story of that. So when you're out, you're beach combing, you're looking for your Uper lights, and you can wander down there and you'll see that face, and we don't know who carved it.
Okay.
It was carved by a French fur trapper who was with Schoolcraft, and they were stuck on that beach for a couple of days because of a storm, and he knew the story. Powers of the Air was still alive at that time.
Wow.
So that is in there. And then one thing that I do, which I've never done before, usually I have 3-day getaways. But I did the Western Upper Peninsula 5-day getaway.
Okay.
We just did this in August. And Kathy had never been to the Western UP, so I took her. And when we got all done, I said, "What do you think?" She said, "You have to write this down. You have to write this down." She said, after the second day, she couldn't tell what road we were on because they all look alike. Sure. They're 2-lane roads with trees on each side. That's you can't tell. Yeah. And if you didn't know to turn here, you would never find this carved Indian. You would never find the Keweenaw Wall, which is one of the most enigmatic oddities in the entire state. You'd never find these things. So because that's so far away, it takes a long time to get to the Western UP. In this book, I've never done a 5-day getaway before, but I did a 5-day getaway in this, and it still does not cover the whole Western UP. So that's what's in there.
That's very, very cool. Is this coming out in April?
Should be out in April.
Okay.
Yep. The printer has it. We're waiting for the proof to come back from the printer, and from there, then it depends on how fast they can do it. But hopefully, we'll have it. Yeah, awesome. Come April.
Well, I'll definitely keep my eyes out for it because
pretty excited about that book.
Yeah, it's that to me is always just it's a magical part of the state is the western part of the UP. So, anything else, Ron? I appreciate it.
That's all I got for now, man. I mean, I'll be glad to come back and talk to you some more. I got 2 or 3 other stories I could tell you.
I bet you do. I would love to do that, and if you're down for it, let's plan on doing something. And maybe next time I'll let you pick a topic, just something that you want to talk about, and we'll run with it.
Yeah, well, we've got one way to go at it. You can see what people, if you have communications with people who listen, maybe people want to know about day trips to towns. Maybe they want to know more about the trails. Maybe they want to know more about the oddities and rarities, and we'll give them what they want.
There you go.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want.
That's one of those ideas.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Guys, I appreciate you for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ron. I really do appreciate it. Take care. This is Wild Spirits Outdoors.
Thanks for tuning in to Wild Spirits Outdoors. We appreciate you joining us on this journey. Don't forget to like, follow, and share wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us grow the tribe and keep on chasing the wild. Stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram at Wild Spirits Outdoors, and also on YouTube at Wild Spirits Pod. You can also head over to www.wildspiritsoutdoors.com for more content. Until next time, chase the wild, feel the spirit.